everyone. Welcome to Out Comes the Sun podcast with my partner here, Melissa Yamaguchi, my best friend in the whole world. And today we're going to talk about friendship because Melissa and I are the best of friends. And, you know, we had this conversation the other day and we were talking about friendship. And, you know, Melissa and I became friends in our 50s. I think you brought this up. We were having a conversation, and not that was that long ago, really, you know, and you're still in your 50s and I'm now in my 60s, but it really is an amazing thing to find friendship kind of later in your life and never having known what real bonded friendship is. And I think there is soulmate, that there's a soulmate experience with friendship. And what, you know, so we met, I was speaking at an American Heart Association thing, and Melissa was the host of this event, and she was up on stage looking glorious and beautiful and funny as anybody could be, and I was laughing my ass off, and she was so, you know, energetic, and I instantly connected. And then I gave my talk, whatever, and afterwards I was obsessed. I had to find her, and I said, I want to see you. And I, you know, like I just knew I wanted you to be my friend. I wanted you to be my friend. But, and then you were telling me last week, you were reading me something about Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin, and that therefore it sounded like the same thing. Like they literally had the same kind of connection when they came together. And there's something about a friendship that is so profound. You know, like I just, and I am going to let you talk. I promise. I promise as a friend, I'm going to let you talk. But there's something so amazing about finding friendship later on in life that that you really do know that person is there for you. What, you know, no matter what you have to say, what you're going through, is there to listen. And because our podcast is about mental health, to me, in many ways, that is about listening, right? And it makes me realize how much I want every one of our listeners to realize the importance of friendship and how that is helpful to their mental health. Anyway, I'm going to let you talk now because I know you probably have some profound things to say about friendship.
Well, there's a couple things I want to bring to point for our listeners. I want them to envision something, because when you and I met, I'm the MC of the American Heart Association thing, and you're the keynote speaker. I know beforehand, because I was asked like the night before to be the MC, because the MC who was slated wasn't feeling well. So they asked me to come in. You know, I'm the 11th hour pitcher. So I come stepping on, I'm reading through the script, and I see Mariel Hemingway, and I knew you were the keynote speaker, but I started seeing what they'd written about you, what the original host, MC, how she was going to introduce you. And being a lifelong lover of literature, I thought there's no way I'm going to introduce Mariel Hemingway in the 2-line introduction that was offered. So I expanded upon it and slaughtered the whole script. And so we get to on stage. So to envision this for our audience, I'm there in a red ball gown skirt that goes to the floor. You're not sure if I have feet. It's that wide. You're not sure. Because when I walk across the stage, I just kind of glide across this little red thing moving across the stage. You come up on stage in a mini dress with legs from here to there, like Nebraska corn stalks, like this long legs forever. You're long, lean, and blonde. I'm a little bit taller than average and brunette. We're like visually, I don't want to say Mutt and Jeff because I'm afraid I'm gonna be stuck with Mutt. I don't know. But just this different energy, right? So looking at us on a board, if they were put together a swatch of people, they may not readily pick the two of us, right? Not readily. But you after I introduced you and I walked off the stage, you grabbed my forearm as you were coming up and you said, "We've got to
Oh,
talk."
I did that?
For
Oh,
a
that's
for
right.
a flash, for just a flash in the pan, I thought maybe I irritated her with the introduction, but I'm just arrogant enough that I thought, no, how could she be? I flattered her. So I walked down, continued with the script. Afterwards, I received your number. You gave it to me. We met the next day for coffee.
Yep.
And the deal was done. The deal was done.
I know,
It was sealed
it was
over. I
crazy.
signed the
I think
agreement.
we had
It was,
lunch
yeah,
every day after that, like for
every day.
months.
We like this connection. Then I was up to your house and meeting Bobby, and we were just this connection. I introduced you to Billy, and we were just like
Oh my
connected.
gosh. It
One
was
of the
amazing.
most one of the most important things that the true basis of any good friendship is that you value one another.
Yes.
And so, and with any relationship really, but with a friendship, sometimes we don't put as much credence toward it when we should, because adults with strong connection have a reduced risk of depression, reduced risk of high
Yes.
blood pressure, and reduced risk of unhealthy BMI, believe it or not.
No, it makes
Because
sense.
they're,
Your
yeah,
microbiome is connected to your brain. Why wouldn't it make sense that you're going to have, your digestion's going to be better? I mean, like, it
yeah,
is crazy how good a good friendship is. There was a meme this morning, and I think I sent it to you. Isn't it cute that you literally tell your best friend everything, like no embarrassment, no shame, nothing hidden? That's a proper best friend. And it
that's a
and it
proper friendship.
really is. It's a proper best friend, because they're not going to guilt you because you took 20 minutes to talk about blah blah blah, because you know that there's going to be a moment where you're the ear and you're listening, right? You know that
Yep.
there's that give and take. And I think, because what it reminds me of, relationship is real, it's what we talked about with Sean Flaherty. Relationship
Mm-hmm.
is really our life, right? And what
Mm-hmm.
you do in relationship to your boss, to your children, to your spouse, to your best friend, all of those relationships teach you how to be more yourself. And I think that great friendships help you to be better in you, right? I think if
Oh
you
yeah.
don't have good, healthy friendships, you don't get somebody who, and sometimes that person can call you out on your, shit, so to speak, right? Who says,
Yep.
hey, you know what? I can't back you up here. And we've had
Yep.
some conversations like that. Not like horrible, but there've been some conversations where you've said, hey, you may want to look at this aspect of it. I hear your side, but there's a whole other aspect, whether it's I'm talking about my relationship with Bobby or whatever it is, or my daughter. And a friendship is somebody who can talk to you in a real way. I mean, I guess that's really what people are looking for when they're looking for a coach or a therapist or whatever it is.
Yes.
But I think that's what friendship is. You know?
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. And the thing that we don't take into account, we know what it is about a love relationship, how it is with your lover, husband, wife, whatever it is. But friendships have a greater effect on your life expectancy than even a regular session of spin class or a session on the treadmill. You and I get the added bonus. I talk to you on my my morning speed walk, so I get the double dose of it. But what they've proven is that 50% of people who have a deep connection friendship, over 50% of them have a greater chance of an average of 7.5 more years to their
Yeah.
life just by having a deeper connection.
Yeah.
I mean, it's important because it releases the oxytocin.
Yeah, it does. It really does. And it's also like, I think, and maybe too, I mean, now I'm getting to that place in my life, not because I physically feel like weary or like I'm slowing down, but I do think of, what's going to happen in 20 years. Like I see us on a on a porch in rocking chairs just because it's cool. Um,
In 20 years, Make that 40 years.
40
I'm
years.
not getting
No,
on a
but I
rocking
mean, you
chair
know
in
what I'm
20
saying.
years.
And it's not because I'm sitting in a rocking chair because I feel decrepit, not at all. But it's because I'm with my best friend and I want to laugh about
Yeah.
something or share something and
Yeah.
talk about my grandchildren because I'm about to have one of those. And I just think there's something about that, knowing that you have that connection to somebody. Now, I have friends. I mean, you have amazing friends. You told me about your friends from Oklahoma, and I have friends.
Hmm.
There's, one good friend that I had from school, and I still in contact with her. But we just don't have that. I don't know. It wasn't until I met you that it was like it all like it clicked, and it made me realize, friendship soulmates are 100% a real thing, right? They're just like,
A real thing. And when you know, it's like when you fall in love with
yeah,
somebody, you meet your person, and you've heard people say, "Oh, I'm going to marry that guy. I'm
yeah,
going to marry that girl." You meet a friend, and when it clicks like that, you think, "Yeah, I'm not going to futz this up because I don't want this
right.
person to walk
And
away.
maybe
I'm going to
and
be
maybe
very
that's
cautious because
why that it sometimes those happen later in life because you've been through so much of life that you can see it
yeah,
so clearly. Like I'm
absolutely.
grabbing that because that's rare. Although I have to say, and maybe you see this in your kids. My kids who are in their 30s, especially Dree, she has a couple friends. Like I see that she's created really strong bonds with people.
Hmm.
And I wasn't as comfortable as a kid doing that, or a kid. I mean, she's in her 30s, but she was doing that throughout her, late teens, early 20s. She was creating those strong bonds, or maybe she found her soulmate really early, soulmate
Yeah,
friendships. Whereas I didn't. I was much more careful, and I wonder if my hesitancy in friendship had to do with my role in my family, right? Thinking that I had to fix things. I was very parent like, in behavior. And yet
hmm,
emotionally I wasn't. So I think that I thought friendship was something that I couldn't spend time on because I had to take care of so many things. And I think when
hmm,
I was raising my kids in a not so healthy relationship, nobody's fault, just the fact that I didn't know how to do relationship very well. Um, I couldn't find time for that, right? So it's just
right.
interesting. And I guess ultimately what it comes down to, now that I'm saying this, is when you know that you can have a really strong relationship with another human, like I have with you, that must mean I'm a better friend to myself now, right?
Oh, I like
I
that.
think so.
No, I like that. And you give yourself permission to be happy and to be and to that's another step to your health and your
Yeah.
happiness. Yeah, I like that. I never thought about that. You know, my when you talk about how your daughters have cultivated these relationships, I've always I have a son and a daughter, and I watch the dynamic of how they are with their friendships. And whereas my daughter is very nomadic, and she's went to school in Europe and
Yeah.
kind of left everything behind and went to Europe and made all new friends, and all of her best girlfriends and guy friends are all front. They hail from Europe, so they meet up wherever they meet up. Whereas my son's had a core group of buddies that he's been really tight with since sixth grade. One in particular, the majority of them since maybe eighth, ninth grade, on into now college. And I'm watching how they're cultivating these relationships, and I'm very open with them about the need for socialization. Of course, I'm not telling them too much. They know the power of socialization. They know that. But what I'm watching them are things that I demand for myself, and that I know that you and I have. Some of the key aspects of true, authentic relationship, no matter where it comes from. But in friendship, I don't think we expect it as much. We kind of do of our lover, our partner, but support, reciprocity, intimacy, in that you can share a secret and know it's completely safe,
Yeah.
right? Lack of judgment, a sense of wanting to improve, the sense of like, you make me better, I make you better, we make each other. I've grown a lot in a lot of ways knowing you, and I feel like we bring this kind of a give and take. I always wanted this kind of a friendship, and I have it to some degree. I wasn't, whatever, it wasn't right for my life at the time. I also moved. I left Oklahoma and came to California. But when I met you, I have other friends. I do have friends, but none of them dropped anchor as fast as you and I
Yeah,
did.
that's true.
You and I dropped the anchor and just went, all right, we're ready. The
Right.
time is right. So giving yourself permission to see it, and giving, and a lot of us self
Yeah.
sabotage friendships too. I've got a friend that I adore, but I won't hear from her for months on
Yeah.
end. And then she comes back around and says, "Thank you for for still being my friend." Well, yeah, I am your friend, but where are you? And so I wrote a post the other day on my Instagram, and I gave an analogy of water. And you can have lukewarm water,
Yeah.
which has a lot of health benefits. And then you can have a boiling pot of hot water, which also, when it's cooled down, tempered, it creates an incredible benefit of flushing toxins, right? So there's two different ways of drinking this water. And I don't want to get into the health benefits of how boiling water will scald your throat, Mom. So, but this is what I just the two aspects of this is in relationship to friendship. The lukewarm is fine if it's
Yeah.
constant. That's your everyday friend, and it's
Yeah.
fine. The deep, the hard steep, that intense boil is someone who shows up when it gets rough. They're there with you. I feel, as I'm given the gift of aging, that I'm not denying the power of any kind of social contact, because I know the value. What I'm wondering is how, as life progresses and my children get older and then they start bringing people into their lives, whether it's a future husband or wife or children, as that continues and I have my handful of core people in my life, the lukewarm is fine to a degree, but I'm starting to question my ability to invest of me into the lukewarm,
Right.
right? And I wonder what's happening with me now, where this is now something where I'm scratching my head. I'm not saying I don't love the people. I'm not saying I
I
don't
get it.
care about them, but how much? Because I'm a hard investor.
Yeah.
Once you're in my life, I drop anchor fast, and I am all in. So I don't turn my back on people, but I'm wondering how much can I invest when it's never given beyond
Yeah.
lukewarm or tepid.
I
I
I
just
think that we care. I think we value our time more.
Yeah,
As you get older, you just start to go, wait, I look back on my life. There was a lot of wasted time. Whatever. Not no regrets, but I was
right.
throwing things around, and I think you just value time and its ability to enrich you. So you and I are very much about how do we better ourselves every day? Because our
Yes.
conversations are about, oh, wow, I hadn't thought about that. I'm going to try that, or, whatever it is. But it's really about how can I get better at being me, right?
Hmm.
And that friendship, you're a mirror to that. But I think that the lukewarm doesn't challenge you anymore, right? It's not that you don't love them, but they're not like saying, "Hey, get out there. You can do this. This is yours," or whatever. Try this. I just tried this. I'd love for you to, like, give me your feedback, right? And I think that lukewarm is it's like cocktail conversation. It's why I'm horrible at a cocktail
Yeah.
party. I'm like, what's going on? What are people talking about? Huh? I was like, huh? It's like Bobby's parents talking about the weather. It's like, are they still talking about the weather? It's this, they're in Florida. How different is it? Or you're in California. Anyway, this day and age is slightly different. But I think that the lukewarm just doesn't feed our soul. And as you become more wise, because we are becoming the wisdom keepers as we get older, I think we value that connection. And I think that superfluous connections are not satisfying. They're not satisfying to the
No.
soul. They're not satisfying to the intellect. They're not satisfying. They're just not. And I don't think they really make you grow. So you can still love that lukewarm sort of friendship, but it's not feeding you in the same way. And I think that what happens naturally as we move on in our lives is that those relationships that are not working just they fall away. And it's kind of like your
Mm-hmm.
friend that calls you once in a while. Thanks for being my friend. It's like, okay, but you don't, and actually, you don't even need to explain to them or that, because they're okay with that. And that's fine too.
Yeah.
And it's about acceptance of what is. I think it really what it comes down to, like
Yeah. You're
being
right.
present and accepting that, oh, that was a time and that time no longer exists. And I'm cool with it. I love that person, but I'm not going in deep. Why invest? They don't want to invest. And that's also not judgment. It's just the way that it is. You know,
Yep.
it's interesting. It's interesting. I find this whole thing interesting. Do we want to take a little break here and get back to our audience? Maybe
Yeah.
take a little break and
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
you're
When we come back, I'll tell the story about Jane Fonda and
oh, I
Lily
love
Tomlin.
that. So you are listening to Out Comes the Sun podcast, listening on YouTube or Spotify or Apple or Instagram. But hopefully on Instagram, you're going to go and listen to the entire conversation. We love having you here. We'll come back in a second. I want to thank one of our incredible sponsors, BrainTap. You may have listened to our podcast with the founder of BrainTap, Patrick Porter. And if you did, you'll definitely want to get involved in BrainTap. And if you didn't, please, I strongly recommend that you go back and listen. It's so incredibly informative. Here's what BrainTap can do. You can literally build your brain fitness with BrainTap's mobile app and wearable headset. Everyone here at Out Comes the Sun podcast has had and continues to have positive results with BrainTap. Your brain is guided from awake and reactionary patterns to intuitive and creative responses. BrainTap is backed by neuroscience and research and was developed by Patrick Porter himself. BrainTap creates a symphony of brainwave activity to optimize your brain's potential, restore your ability, balance your energy, and calm your brain. And listen, it is a game changer when it comes to sleep. This technology is truly a gift, and I am so incredibly grateful to be able to share it with you. Welcome back to Out Comes the Sun podcast. I'm talking to Melissa Yamaguchi, my partner in Out Comes the Sun and in the Mariel Hemingway Foundation. I haven't brought that up in a while. The Mariel Hemingway Foundation is a foundation that Melissa and I created for mental health. We are looking for it to become a resource navigator so that people can come and get information wherever they are, at least to start off in this country, and where they can get holistic help, psychiatric help, whatever kind of help they need. That's the dream. I hope that you support us. That's why we have the Outcomes of Some podcast, because we want to share all the knowledge that we're acquiring about mental health. And today we're talking about friendship, and friendship is, I think, in my life, one of the most important mental health balancers that I can, really hold on to. So thank you, Melissa, for that. Because you my friend.
Oh, lucky me. Well, we as humans, we're hardwired to connect. So how lucky are we that it was a good connection and not a faulty connection? I was sharing with you and I were talking, as we do every day, about, I was telling you that I'd read this really great story about how Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin met. And, they did the show Grace and Frankie that was on Netflix, and they've done now like Brady 80 for Brady or something. They've done like 3 or 4 movies that are now coming out, right? Just like one after the very prolific. And they're both, they're in their early to mid 80s. And I was reading about some interviewer had asked Jane, how long have you and Lily have such an interesting chemistry? How long have you known each other? And she said, well, back in the late 60s, early 70s, I went to see her in concert when she was doing her comedic routines. And I saw her on stage and I thought, I've got to meet this gal. So she said, I made my way backstage and introduced myself, and we hit it off. And we've been dear, dear friends ever since. And, but it wasn't until, later in our 80s that we were finally able to find a platform to
I know.
work together. And now they can't get enough of it. And the interesting thing about it is the minor age difference between the two of them is the same as between
Yeah.
you and me. That's what's so bizarre, almost to the month. It's
It is
uncanny, right?
uncanny. And the other thing that's cool is that we kept looking. I mean, we don't have years and years, but it felt very long because we have so much compacted in our short amount of time together that we wanted to work together because it doesn't feel like work, right? I mean, that's why
Right.
we do in the
It's easy.
foundation. That's why we do the podcast. That's why we do a lot of. I mean, we have so many projects going together, but it's because any good relationship should be a good relationship that you can work fluidly, you can laugh fluidly, you can exchange
Yep.
it should just be this like exchange, this fluid exchange. And and wow, it's just I love that we're talking about this because I think friendships are they're key. Friendships, relationship. It really is. It's the way to learn more about yourself. Relationship to self, relationship to your friends, relationship to your lover, relationship to your kids and your grandkids.
And relate well, and understanding a good relationship, because a lot of people will have friendships that are more toxic. If your friendship builds your
Yes.
self-esteem, if you get off the phone and your friend can really authentically and effortlessly tell you, hey, you were really great in this. I admire this about you. Oh, I love when you do that. And it feels, compliments feed our self esteem, especially when you can hear that the genesis is
Yes.
authentic, right? So whenever you and I give one another a compliment, it's genuinely coming from a good place. Like, oh, like that dress looks really pretty on you, or your makeup looks really good, or you spoke so well at that thing, or I love what you wrote. It's a genuine reciprocation of
Mm-hmm.
admiration. That's also one of the core tenets of good parenting. It's a good to have with your partner. It's good in any situation. We don't always offer it to our friends, not always. We are sometimes, and if we're in a toxic relationship, we don't
Yeah.
get it. So that's a marker. A true friend builds your self-esteem and makes you feel good about yourself, as though and doesn't blow hot air up your backside, but really offers you genuine truth, like you talked
Yeah.
about earlier. It's real. So, I really want to encourage our audience and anyone listening, our audience, that you in order for you to have a balance of mental health, emotional health, and ultimately, as we've heard, physical health, also spiritual health, I'm sure, you must invest in a true good relationship. If you have one that's lukewarm and it doesn't, and you've tried to invest and it doesn't seem like it's going somewhere, do like we just discussed that I should probably do, and be okay with it, but not keep investing my time and give myself permission to not feel guilty about it. But find yourself a friend, a relationship that offers a deep, deep connection, because it's cathartic in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. I can bounce things off of you. And like I said to you this morning, I'm just going to vent for a
Yeah.
minute, if it's okay. But we have a safe enough haven with each other that when you vent to me, I don't think, well, geez,
Right.
what did I do?
It's so interesting.
I don't
But
feel
it's
that way.
interesting that you're saying this because we don't feel that way with each other. But I know, and some of you listening, there are people that zap you. You get off the phone, you just feel zapped because it's so one-sided. Every time they call
Hmm.
you, they've got the same problem and they've had the same problem for 25 years, and you're like, "Ay,"
Yeah.
like what? You're still talking about the same thing and you feel so drained. There are some friends, and you can still call them friends, but they do drain you in a way, and that's imbalance. It's kind of like it's a good measure of your own ability to see your own balance, right? When you see that there's friends
Yeah.
coming in, and if they're always taking or you're always taking from them, it's good to be aware of that, right? And that's what's so great about our relationship. It's a very much a give and take. And what it helps me in my own relationship with Bobby, which is a male female relationship, and sometimes intimate partners can be more challenging sometimes, right? Because they're, even though he's my soulmate and I love him so much, but they're, because of, because what, opposites attract in some ways, male female, whatever that difference is, which makes our relationship good, but it also can make it challenging at times. You help me to put those pieces together. I mean, not to mention your knowledge of energy work and knowing energy. I mean, yesterday, for example, I called you and I was like, Bobby, whatever, and you said, look, I'm not giving excuses for one side or the other. I just want to tell you what the energy's doing today, and that's really helpful. It really is, and it didn't upset me. It was like, okay, when you can have some clarity about the world, and sometimes we're just feeling the pain and craziness of the world we live in, right? And sometimes
Yeah.
we forget that our world is tough right now, right? There's a lot going on, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of, we've come out of the COVID-19, but do we really know what the next move is? We now all speak this way, we don't see people in person that often, like life has changed. So sometimes you're feeling
Oh
the
yeah.
weight of the world, Weltschmerz, that German saying of the weight of the world is on your shoulders. And if you remember that it's not yours, oh, this is not
Yeah.
mine. This is
Yeah.
everybody's. I mean, it's not mine, but it's everybody's. But I also don't need to bear it all myself because it's not just mine to keep it. That's what relationship and good friendship can do, is give you that bounce
Yep.
back. And you helped me get through to understanding that, like everything would be okay, even though I know that intellectually, and I would tell 8 million people, energy always shifts. But when you're inside of it and you're just going through hell and you feel like, like I'm in pain and I want to cry and I want to feel sorry for myself, sometimes you need to be shaken out of that and just be told the reality of the world, right? And that's what a good friendship
Yep.
can do.
And well, the reason it's so vital, also another reason that, as you were talking about COVID, it made me remember that I'd read that the 4-day work week is probably here to
Yeah.
stay. People were going into COVID and working from home and realizing, oh hey, hang on a
Yep.
minute, I kind of like my
Yeah.
house and I like being here. And so what, and then some people were saying, I can't wait to get back to the office because I need a respite from
Yeah.
my home life. But for those who, because the 4-day work week is probably here to stay, a lot of us who have left that 5-day work week are now missing out on a 5th day of potential socialization that we may not get
Exactly.
elsewhere. So it would behoove us even more to try to
Cultivate our friendship.
do something, to
Right.
join something, to seek out, to open yourself up to deepening an existing good friendship, or to meeting new people, putting yourself out there. I don't, in
And it's
whatever
hard right
format that
now.
looks like.
I think that people need to know it's okay. You can go out, you can meet people, you can, like, I think that people need to know that we're safe again. Like, the human body is amazing. And this is not a science conversation, but this is like,
You getting all Woody
I'm just saying,
Harrelson on Saturday Night Live with me right now?
exactly. But I mean, I think we're designed to survive whatever's going on in the world. And I think that the the fact of the matter is, human beings need other human beings. We need contact, real contact.
Yep.
And
We do. Like I said, we're hardwired
yes,
for it. We need each other. We need human contact. We need socialization. Absolutely. Listen, the release of oxytocin, the building of self-esteem, the assurance that I have a 50% probability of living 7.5 years longer than I would have anyway, whatever that marker is. I just moved it up. So that means that the longer we stay friends, the longer the marker keeps going. I'm going to hope that that's
well,
our good
that
news.
I feel
I
like
think
it
that
is. I mean, I just feel like it is. I think there's a lot of, the good news is as crazy as the world is, there's so many good things that are happening because of conversations like we have on our podcast, whatever, with many different kinds of people. But there are many ways to broaden your lifespan, your health span, right? Your living healthy, mentally clear life. There's so many cool things happening day by day.
Longevity is
And that's
real.
kind of what our passion is to share with you, that it's actually the simple things. Today we talked about friendship. Sometimes we're talking about going barefoot in the backyard. Sometimes we're talking about drinking water. Sometimes we're talking about laughing. Sometimes, whatever it is. I think friendship, geez, it just kind of covers everything, because there's a lot of laughter in that friendship. Anyway, I just want to say thank you to everyone. This has been a wonderful conversation today about friendship. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you for being my friend.
Thank
I'm
you.
I'm grateful. Can we just we'll just say that March is Friendship Month. It's
That's it.
Friendship Month.
We've
Yeah,
redubbed it.
redubbed it. Friendship.
Throw out your Irish Lucky Charms and make a friend. Yeah.
And thank you everyone for listening to Outcomes to Sun podcast. Join us at the Mariel Hemingway Foundation on Instagram, marielhemingwayfoundation.org, if you want to give a donation to help us kind of keep things going, and listen to Outcomes to Sun podcast every single week, because you're just going to get something amazing from it. We thank you all for joining us. Thank you so much for joining us today on Out Comes the Sun. You can listen to our podcast on Spotify, on Apple, and on YouTube. And you can donate to the Mariel Hemingway Foundation at the marielhemingwayfoundation.org. And I want to spell Hemingway for you, HEMINGWAY.org. I only say that because a lot of people put two M's, and that just won't work. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, you can go to the donate button at the bottom, and it will take you right to a link with the QR code. And if you go to marielhemingway.org, you can also press the donate button and be able to donate to the foundation, which is designed to help guide people towards finding the right solutions for their mental health issues. That is my goal. I'm just trying to raise money so I can come up with an app and a website that has all the information you could possibly want to know about mental health and where to go. But we are in the process of making that happen, and your donation means so much to us. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.